Hello, everyone. Welcome to an unexpected podcast. I am Rob here in DC, and I'm joined by Matt and Evan in Boston. Rainier should be joining us from somewhere in the world. I'm never quite sure where he is. And Devin's coming to us from the local spa. Today, we are going to go over a list as we usually do. And then we've got a bit of a fun topic. And so we're going to be talking about models that are objectively good, see a lot of tournament play. There's nothing wrong with them, but for whatever subject irrational reason, we hate them anyway. So these are not like bad models that everyone will agree you should never take. These are models you see all the time that we just have personal vendettas against.
Yeah,
or profiles, I should say.
But before we get too far from it, for those of you who are listening at home rather than watching on YouTube, the reason that Rob referred to Devin as being here from the local spot is he is here in his bathrobe with his glass of port and his cigar, reclining in his hot tub on the mic. So
it's a wonderful experience, guys.
What I find to be the best part of your bathrobe, Devin, is that it has monogrammed initials that are not yours.
Actually, as crazy as it sounds, this was a birthday gift, and it actually does have.
Oh, it was just folded wrong.
It actually does have my initials on it.
For a second,
the way it was folded, I thought the initials on it were MJ, and I'm like, that's not your name.
Yeah, because Devin has stolen Michael Jordan's bathrobe.
I just wanted to wear greatness.
And his cigars.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think if we saw Devin in Michael Jordan's bathrobe, there would be like 5 feet of it trailing off the bottom end. So
that's true. Yeah.
Just as a quick trivia about me, it's funny. I got this as a gift from a friend who knew my favorite clothing is bathrobes. Actually, I just love them, and if I could wear them all day, every day, out and about.
Clothing in quotation marks.
Clothing. I'm pretty sure if I was in feudal Japan, this would be appropriate. But it's in modern America.
Please tell me you are wearing fuzzy bunny slippers.
No, well, I do have fuzzy socks though.
All right. Okay.
It's close.
He loves bathrobes so much, it's actually a bathrobe onesie. It goes all the way down. It's got little footies on it.
I love them. I think they're great. They're comfortable. They're warm. I'll walk around in the snow in them. I don't know. Just love it.
If you were wearing fuzzy bunny slippers, I would have handed it to you right there. You would have been the all-time coolness winner. Doing the podcast socks, in your bathrobe and your fuzzy bunny slippers.
I can't honestly fault you for this because I have to agree that bathrobes are pretty great. I remember the first time my then girlfriend, now wife, when I went to visit and meet her parents, I stole one of their bathrobes by accident because I thought they laid it out for me as a gift, but they didn't. And I took it home anyway because I like bathrobes a lot. And I routinely steal them from hotels. So.
I was going to say, have you ever acknowledged that? I mean,
have you ever acknowledged that? And no one's ever spoken about it.
That's right. No one will ever know.
I was like, oh, that was so nice of them. And then I realized that was not a gift.
Yeah. We will never speak of this again. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So should we talk about a list?
Yes, we should. Somebody has that, I think, right?
Yeah, I think I have that. All right. So let me hit the various arcane buttons and get this up on the screen. All right. So this is a list that came in on our Facebook page via Facebook message. And this is from Stavros in Greece. And he says that his name is Stavros. He'd like to congratulate us on the podcast. He's been listening regularly on Spotify for some time now. Thank you, Stavros. He's going to be taking Eisenkond and a Kond alliance list, which he calls Eisenkond. Okay. To a local 500-point tournament. And could you rate it and review it? So this list has 2 warbands, Saruman with 9 Uruk-hai warriors with shields, 5 Uruk-hai scouts with bows, and Grima Wormtongue. Then it has a Kondish king on chariot and a Kondish charioteer. And his theory of this list is that the basic idea is he will try to charge with the chariots as soon as he can, and Saruman and the Uruk-hais will stay back, supporting by throwing transfixes and shooting with the bows. Meanwhile, Grima will hopefully help by drawing might out of the enemy heroes and helping the Kondish king stay alive. Also, the Palantir rule works well with the chariots and Grima, who might make the opponent think twice. but calling that heroic move in order to steal priority or get stomped by the chariots. It comes at 495 points and 18 models. May not be the most competitive list, but I think it'll be fun to play. And he said, I would put some crossbows instead of the scouts, but I don't have them. And also, I think it's a good option to be able to move and shoot. And he's looking forward to hearing our thoughts. So, what are our thoughts?
This is a list that probably needs to be at a higher point level just because of the inclusion of Saruman and high point chariots. I mean, I get the idea behind it, but obviously at 18 models, I mean, I wonder how many models most people armies will have at 500, and would the Khandish king be able to make that up quickly with the trample rule?
So, I mean, I
But-
assume it would be about, I mean, your average is going to be about 25. So he is 7 models low, which is a little scary.
Because, I mean, if he's charging into an enemy army with just the Khandish king on chariot, which it almost sounds like that's what he's doing, because he's got the 5 scouts behind, he's admitted that. So the 9 orcs with shields are effectively breaking his own army if he commits them. So the chariots are like alone with Saruman. Now I get the play on Saruman, Sorcerer's Blast onto anyone who charges the chariot, but
by the way, he hasn't mentioned that, so you should talk through. Whoops.
Oh, I thought that
he
was
didn't
the
mention
main gimmick.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he hasn't mentioned that. I'm not certain he is aware of that gimmick.
Okay.
So we should talk through that. Unpack.
I'm trying to make sure, because I'm trying to remember if there's a wording difference on why the Iron Hills chariot is not affected. But long story short, I know with the Iron Hills chariot, at least, you Sorcerer's Blast into combat, the chariot cannot be knocked over. And so essentially it just takes the damage from the Sorcerer's Blast, but doesn't get knocked over. But all of the models in the combat do. So your opponent's left with this really bad situation where in priority, if you go first and they don't challenge you, then you just run them over. And then if they do challenge you and you lose the roll off and then they grab your chariot, well, you can just Sorcerer's Blast the combat and knock all of them over and basically attack with absolute immunity since they can't strike. They're all on the ground. So it's this really nasty interaction. And when played with, like, I used to play this with the Iron Hills chariot, it's pretty devastating. So it looks like he's doing the same thing because the Khandish king has its own might to call heroic moves on those move offs to try to kill models in the trample. And if he fails, well, then Sorcerer's Blast them out of it. And the best part is Sorcerer's Blast actually knocks the target out of the combat. So if you hit something you don't want to be in the combat, you can even remove it. So that's kind of the basic idea. But so I know that works with the Iron Hills chariot. I forgot if the wording doesn't translate over to the Khandish one.
I just looked in the book to double check, but it does. It specifically says it won't be knocked over by Sorcerer's Blast.
Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is
powers.
It'll still take the damage from the Sorcerer's
It will still
Blast,
take the
right?
hit. Yeah.
You could just kill your charioteer immediately and drop the entire thing.
Yeah, which I think
so
is
it's
the reason not to
definitely-
do it.
Well, you wouldn't do this on the charioteer. You do it on the Khandish king's combat.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
charioteer
Yeah.
is clearly just a support wing to. I mean, yeah, I would not Sorcerer's Blast his combat. You'll
Right.
kill him.
Another thing that I don't know if this is simply not listed or not included is Saruman on a horse and is Grima on a horse. I didn't do the points. Or
It
anything,
does not
so-
look like they are, but Saruman needs to get on one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would definitely so my thinking on this is that the Saruman Khandish King on Chariot combo is a good one and a fun one and an annoying one. And so if that's the main gimmick you're trying to preserve, I think that's great. I don't think that the 14 Urukai and the 1 Charioteer are really doing much for you or supporting that plan. I know that this might not be possible because he's already mentioned that there's some limitations to what model he has, but I would almost be tempted to flip the script and have Saruman and Grima from Eisenkond and then just have a Khandish King on Chariot and a bunch of like Khandish horsemen or something, right? And just have it be like a fun, fast moving list that has this Saruman King on Chariot combo in it. Because he's already saying it's not the most competitive, but it'll be fun to play. I kind of feel like that would be even more fun because then all your non-heroes aren't complete dead weight, right? But that may or may not be possible because, again, he may not have access to the models to do that. So
Yeah.
I guess for the purposes of this conversation, we'll just assume he has access to all models in the game because it's always difficult to evaluate.
Doesn't
changes to
everyone?
a list. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, right. So,
Well, I mean, we know because he's given us this detail that he does not have crossbows.
well,
So-
yeah, but I mean, then it's just like, and I get Rob's, logical to think maybe he doesn't have Condish horsemen since obviously there's a monetary barrier to them. They're a little rare. So, so I get it, but I was actually thinking along the same lines as Rob. It's like, okay, why not convert this to an all Cond list instead?
yeah, make it almost like an evil Rohan plus Gandalf, but flipped, right? Or it's Cond plus Saruman instead.
I'd imagine he'd only have like
So
6 troops.
he's,
Maybe,
he's,
yeah.
he's got a problem in that his Condish, he's not going to have the army bonus, so he's got to worry about bow limit.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's gonna
they're-
have to
yeah, he's got to get rid of the
majority
chariot.
chariots.
yeah.
Oh, well, he doesn't have to get rid of it. I think it's 2-handed axe or a bow.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
you're gonna have to
It's-
take. No, it is.
No, I'm
is.
looking at the Condish horseman.
Oh.
It's hand and a half axe, bow, dagger.
No,
and
we're
horse.
talking the chariots.
Yeah, so that you couldn't
is
do
what
it
we're
with the
talking
horseman
about.
then.
He
So
doesn't
the
have to
chariots
get rid
are
of the
forced to have
chariot.
bows.
He doesn't have to get rid of
Yeah.
the chariot because there's only one warrior, so he's fine.
Yeah.
No. I mean the chariots. Are they forced to take bows or not?
The charioteer. Are you talking about the charioteer? Or
I'm talking about the
Condish king on
charioteer.
Charioteers.
The
Uh,
charioteer is not forced to take a bow. It can
he is
swap.
not.
Yeah, then
for a
he's
bow.
fine. He can just
Yeah.
take the axe.
All right. So hear me out. Candish king on chariot. Candish chieftain on chariot. 2 charioteers. Saruman on horse. Grima. That's 498 points.
I
Yeah,
actually
7
like
models.
it better for the purposes of what he's trying to do. I think the Urk scouts are just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
all
think
right.
that's
They're
true.
good objective capturers. I mean, sure, but I mean, in this list, they functionally cannot assist. They just break the army.
Well, they're there to break the army. They're a liability, right? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
The
that's right.
horsemen don't work obviously because they're not in a green alliance. It's a good call, but I do like the chariot version of that. I think that would be like a fun elite chariot force that has this wizard to bail them out when they need to be, right?
I mean, it will definitely not win a tournament. Terrain will be like the bane of the list, but hey, it will be fun.
Could win
Mhm.
Articon.
Maybe.
Look, when you have Mumaks stomping around at top tables on Articon, right? Anything can happen.
Pumak was barely manned. It had like 4 guys on it or something.
Yeah. I'm
But-
always amused by those Mumaks that you see at tournaments where it's like the guy driving it and then like one guy in the howdah. You know?
Right. Now, to flip this a little bit, assuming that there isn't an infinite amount of chariots in Stavros's collection to throw out, another way you could approach it is to drop the charioteer entirely, just keep the king, and take those points and turn them into more Uruk-hai to beef up and make. I would probably just make a battle line with shields in front and pikes.
Scouts
maybe a
are
few crossbows with warriors instead of scouts. I think I would probably do that, and then just have Saruman with this battle line of Uruks and Grima, and this chariot king running around with a sorceress blast assist that the enemy constantly has to worry about, right? So to make it more of a infantry force with the chariot rather than the opposite, if the chariot plan was impossible because of financial or collection reasons.
I mean, even then, that's like the charioteers, correct me if I'm wrong, are only like 30 points ish.
30 points.
Well, there are at least 3
Yeah,
bodies
so-
there, right?
Yeah,
And he's got 5 extra
they're-
points to spend too. So
There
he's
are
got
at
35
least
points
3
to play.
bodies.
Mhm.
But even then, I feel like the combination of Saruman and the Khandish King on Chariot is just too many points at 500 points to not just lean all in. And I think in order to because obviously they're not trying to win tournaments or anything, but in order to really have fun with this combination and be able to do damage and win things, I think at 500 at least, leaning all in with the chariots is
Mhm.
probably going to be the best way to do it. And yeah, I'm not sure how much dropping the charioteer and taking a couple extra Uruk-hai warriors is going to help anything.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason to have the Uruk-hai warriors is to provide a screen for Saruman, so he's not getting charged.
On a horse, though. I mean, he's,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he
shouldn't
needs
have
the
an
horse.
issue.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think he needs
Yeah.
the horse.
Well, and the horse should be accessible because the new plastic comes with a horse, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
it's just he's staying 12 inches from combat at all times.
Mhm.
I mean, granted, yes, if I fight an enemy Rohan army and then it can catch him, but I just, I get the screen. I mean, keep in mind, we're trying to make Kandi's chariots and a king work with Saruman at 500 points. Like,
Remind
this really just
me,
needs more points.
if the Kandish king wins a heroic combat, can he do a chariot trample with the move?
Actually, yes.
Mhm.
So you
can.
could do the whole compel a model into him, combat off of it to trample through the
Yep.
line with the
Yes,
chariot.
you can.
Yep.
So that's
And-
another trick there you could do with him.
Yeah. I mean, Saruman with the Kandish King is actually a fantastic combo. It's one that actually I wanted to play, but like I said, at like 800 points. But I like the idea behind it.
Yeah, I mean,
Obviously.
500 is a very tight points limit for pretty much any list, much less when you have two big models like that.
Well, it's just Saruman's like occupying 200 points of this list, and then you have the king occupying another 100. So it's like, Jesus. Like,
So what's our outcome? What was Evan? What was the list you were talking about? Saruman on a horse.
It's 4 chariots, so it's king, chieftain, 2 chariots. Also, yeah, the king, chieftain, 2 chariots, and then Saruman on horse and Grima.
Is
Gives
Grima
you
on
a
horse?
bit more might points. Grima cannot get on horse. I do have a Kandish horseman in there, so potentially you could drop that and then take Grima on horse.
Yep, you can find
if
that
you
model.
prefer.
I mean, I think I'd
Um,
want Grima on horse because I think I'd want Grima riding behind these
Mhm.
chariots.
yeah.
Or else.
Yeah,
Well,
just keep them all together,
yeah.
or else Grima's by himself in the back
Yeah, wait
somewhere,
for
right?
me. Yeah.
You smell of horse, stay here.
what'd be
Yeah.
awesome is if Grima like takes his opportunity to charge something he wants to pin down, and the chariots run it over. Like,
Yeah.
Be awesome. That would
make
be
sure he
awesome.
can't get out.
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, I guess if you don't have access to Grima on a horse, because those are hard to find.
Well,
If you,
they don't exist.
Yeah, they don't
frankly, right?
exist. You got to
well,
make
you can,
it.
You can make it.
Yeah.
If you don't have access to Grima on horse, do you
Points
do you is this a situation where you have Grima deploy with the other army and kind of risk?
Yeah, just have him deploy with the other army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think that's exactly how you play this army. I actually would rather have him like that because you don't have enough models to really screen him off. I think a random bow shot will kill him if you do the 4 chariots because there's only one in the way. So
Yeah,
I
true.
think that the only way to play this list is to put Grima with the other army.
All right. Fair
So
enough.
I'm fine with him being without a horse.
Well, unless they have no shooting and it's, good
Well,
to
yeah,
have them
but
behind
we're-
your line. But yeah, most of the time I think you deploy them with the other army.
Yes. Yeah. If they have no shooting and absolutely no range capability, but then it also isn't hard to get around your 4 chariots.
Mhm.
So I would actually be worried about Grima every time. But, I don't know. You're right. It does kind of depend on what you're playing, terrain, all that. But
Yeah,
all right. That's how we would make this Isengard, Eisenkond soup list.
I do
Yep.
love the name. It's like one of those celebrity couple mashup names, right?
Yeah.
Eisenkond. I like it.
Yep. Now I have this image in my head of William Shatner screaming Eisenkond.
All
Well,
right.
that is Stavros, what your opponents will be shouting after every game when you run them over with chariots.
Yes. Or it could
Very near.
alternatively be what you're shouting after every game after your
Yeah.
after your chariots get run over. But you'll have fun doing it.
But at the end of the day, someone is screaming Eisenkond, so it's a good
Yep.
time.
Yeah.
Ready. And here's Rainier from Honduras.
Mhm.
What's up, guys?
Yes.
I heard the word "cond" all the way in Honduras, and I decided to join this episode. Initially, wasn't going to, but I have
There was an
spies
echo
in
on the wind.
every single
Eisenkond,
corner.
Eisenkond.
Exactly.
Mhm.
All righty.
All right.
So I think we're ready for the main event, Rob.
Yes, we are. Rainier, I don't know if you have any last minute thoughts on that list that we put up, or if you got to see it before we move on. But
interesting. It's a version of the bastardized con list that you typically see, going with the whole magic to grab someone into combat and trample them. I'm sure you guys talked about that. I heard a little of the end of it, and I say, please run over your own Grimmer Wormtongue just to get a couple more kills. Like, please. Yes. Yeah,
Turn around and back over him.
His disguise was so good that we killed him.
You've already won the game. There's no reason for it. Last turn you do it
You
anyway.
know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be some game winning type of play where you have to run over your own Grima, and then you're gonna botch the roll to kill Grima and stop, and then lose the game because of it.
And then he's gonna make strikes against you and wound you.
Yep. And then you're gonna yell Eisenkond, because that's what you do.
All right.
So cool. Yeah. So broadly what we had discussed as well. Interesting concept, very much like that. A little tough to pull off at 500, but a couple ways to tweak that to make it a little bit more effective. So with that in mind, shall we move on to the main event, which is, again, perfectly good profiles that we hate for irrational reasons. Does anybody want to go first, or am I first up?
I mean,
you go for it, Rob.
Oh man! All right. Well, I'll start off with a pick that is sure to be controversial among this group, because I know this is a very popular model. My first model that I hate irrationally is Gullivar, the Terror of Arnor. I can't stand anything about this model. And as we have discussed many times on this podcast, it is a phenomenal profile, and there's nothing wrong with it. And if you're playing Angmar, you probably should be taking it. And if you see it across the table, it's going to be a threat. But like, what is this thing? Where did they make this up? The model is awful. Like, I don't get the lore of it. Like, where is this weird vampire monster coming from? That was never, to my knowledge, in the lore at all.
But wait a minute, it was in the 8th appendix.
Yeah, Sauron turned into one or something,
place, right? Well,
that's what the ring race look like when they take
best I can think is that in the first age, Sauron technically had vampires, right? Yeah. And so that this is some holdover vampire from the first age that magically popped up in Arnor. It drives me bananas, and I absolutely hate this profile. There are like 4 models in the game that I don't own, and this is one of them. So
you are going to be eating your words when Gullivar shows up in Rings of Power Season 2.
Oh, I will not be eating my words. I will hate this profile forever.
No,
I will hate it so much that if he shows up in Season 2, I'll just hate Season 2. That's
there you go. Excellent plot, excellent story, but screw that character.
That'll be the like breaking the camel's back moment for me. Like, I love this show. Gullivar, screw you.
But then Rob will be redeemed and happy when Faramir shows up to kill Gullivar in the conclusion.
I think he'll be conflicted.
Don't you
I think he'll just be
like this.
He'll just be confused on what.
Don't
how
bother me with Faramir. I know his uses, and they are none.
And then Faramir is going to turn to the camera and say, see dad, I can do something.
Right.
So I hate Gullivar. It is a great profile. Everyone should use it, but no one should use it because it's awful.
All right. So is that purely a lore-based objection, Rob?
Lore-based objection plus model-based objection plus just like it doesn't make any sense. Like, why does it exist, right? Even in the game, like, no, of all of the factions, Angmar has this like weird vampire thing. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's one of the pure GW creations that I've always looked at and been like, the hell is this?
All right. So,
and unfortunately for me, in this edition, it's actually good. In the last edition, it wasn't. Right. So now I have to look at that bastard all the time.
I guess so. We have all 1 each or 3 each. I mean, is that?
I mean, I could probably go further, but I've got at least 3.
So I guess we'll rotate.
I just have 2, but I'll try to get 3.
We can stick to 2. That is totally fine.
All right, we can. Well, why don't we rotate? So
we'll rotate clockwise. Sure.
Clockwise is Devin.
All right. So my first one should be of no surprise to anyone who's listened to this podcast for any length of time. The Balrog is a very unfun model. I'm not saying it's broken, but what the hell? So my issue.
To that I say, preach, brother, preach.
The thing is, like, the model, like, it evokes what probably the game designers wanted, which is, you know, you want to run from it just like the Fellowship do. It seems impossible to take down, and I suppose once you actually do it, it's this huge victory, which, you know, no one ever really tries. But it's just my issue with it is, like, it's a really just not fun model to play against, especially in the fact that I really don't like the fight 10. I think of all things, I really wish they would just get rid of the fight 10 and throw it to fight 9. I really don't like that you do everything correctly, and on a 50-50 roll off, your game is over. And, you know, you just, you know, slaughter whatever hero you just threw at it. And so, and I get it. I get that behind it. I don't know if lore-wise it's even correct, considering, and Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Balrogs were slain by, like, elves in droves. So these are models that seem like they should have the stats of, like, what we see in the dragon profile.
I mean, I wouldn't say they were slain in droves, but there were definitely elven heroes that were able to slay them.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe humans, I guess there's no account of a human doing it.
Well, I don't think so. I think it was
Yeah.
Glorfindel, maybe not Earendil.
Elrond?
No, the guy Exelion of the Fountain.
Okay.
I think he took one down. Some of the major first age elven heroes, basically. I don't think any of the men did.
Okay.
Maybe
I thought the reason they weren't
fought one.
Then from just a gameplay standpoint, my issue is really just one, the fight 10. It's just a gameplay mechanic. I think even at fight 9, they're still terrifying. I think the 10 wounds is a bit excessive in the sense that it makes it just take forever to kind of take one down, this repetitive thing because of the fight, you know, the combination of defense, 9, I believe, and then, you know, 10 wounds, and it just takes a long time. It's this constant back and forth of rolling of dice, and so I just think if the game designers had a Balrog on a blank slate, just never had seen it before, there was no profile for it, I do not think they would have written it like this. I think they took a template from the beginning of the first of this game, and I don't really know why, because it's not like it was some celebrated model of, like, this is a perfect profile, and then they just kept it going and then just buffed it up. So that's my issue with that. It's really just, I think it's a very boring model to play against. But that's my what do we call it? Our irrational opinion.
Yeah.
Perfectly good models, because it's very competitive. So
models we hate for all the wrong reasons is what we're calling it. So I agree with you that the fight 10 is so annoying, because even on a perfect strike, it's a 50-50, right? Like, it's just like and it's one of those models that is so swingy that it either completely wins you the game or completely loses you the game. And it's like every game is very binary. So I've had games where I ignore it successfully and it has no impact, and games where for whatever reason I can't do that and it just eats me alive and there's nothing I can do about it, right? So it makes for very binary, unfun games. I agree.
And the only side thing, they added this in, I can't remember if it's the Liege of the profile, but why does it give fight bonuses and stuff to goblins around it?
Like they should
goblins want to huddle it. Like, right? What?
They should run from it wherever it goes. Yeah, right.
It should be like, this thing will attack it if they get within 6 inches of it. Like, so it should just be by itself. Like, so that's, I think from a gameplay perspective,
I could see, like, any goblin that ends a turn within like 6 inches of it has to take a break test or run away because they're like, screw this, right?
Yeah,
something
exactly.
Like that. Instead, it makes them fearless.
Yeah, right. Which they were completely not like from, but hey, you know, so that's my issue with it. I would do a total overhaul of that character.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I'm going to talk about an apparently completely different model that also coincidentally happens to be called the Balrog. And the reason it's a totally different model is the Balrog that I play with behaves completely differently on the table. So this is what the Balrog figure that I play with does. He goes and he flicks his whip as he's going to charge somebody, and he does the thing that Indiana Jones does, where he screws up and actually accidentally like scars himself in the face with his own whip.
Yep.
And then he blunders into like one guy with a spear, ineffectually flails around at him, rolling something like a 4 highest. Loses to the one idiot with a spear who promptly like stabs him in the foot and gives him a wound. That's the Balrog that I know. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who can like make this guy work, but every time I put him on the table, he's a buffoon. And that's the way he seems to go. As far as I can tell, the only reason that the elves didn't kill these things in droves was because of the strict hunting season requirements that they had on them. So that, you know, everybody was afraid to like kill a Balrog out of season, and that's really the only reason that they survived. That one of them survived to the third age. So yeah, all right. So I'm gonna
Remember
say
though,
this-
I said they're not fun. So broken or terrible. Even if you said they were terrible models, even before the Hobbit edition, where they really were genuinely terrible models, they were never fun. Like they're boring models to play against. So whether they're awful or fantastic, they suck. Like that.
So I mean, I don't know. I've actually had some fun games with the Balrog, because I mean, the interesting thing with the Balrog is whenever you take the Balrog list, it's obviously all about the Balrog. And it leads to some interesting tactical choices in how you have to use the Balrog and his whip to get around. And I never feel like it's a game that, certainly I never feel like it's a game that the Balrog is going to dominate. I always feel like I have a decent plan, and I go in and my Balrog is like, I'm gonna try and use my whip. Whoopsie, I missed again. You know, and this happens throughout the entire game. And so,
so you've got the Life of Brian version of Balrog.
Exactly. In theory, this should be a terrifying model, but really the only damage he does is when my opponent accidentally like injures himself laughing too hard at what his Balrog. So.
Yeah, I'll take it. Incomprehensibly terrible when I play it is a perfectly valid reason to hate a good model.
All right, Evan, what do you got?
Well, so I went with something a bit more unique here, of a model that I just absolutely despise. So we're going to be talking about the Balrog. So what's up with the Balrog, basically? No joke, that was actually my pick. I'm going to go over him very, very briefly here because literally everybody else has talked about him. But the Balrog is basically what you get when your opponent drives all the way to Vegas, grabs one of the slot machines, drives back, and slaps it on the table. And that's basically what a Balrog is.
Yeah.
That's what he does. It just turns every fun tactical game of SPG into, all right, how well is my opponent going to roll with the Balrog? Am I going to lose? And that is just so horrendous to play against. And then sometimes I take him, right? And I put him on the table, and then he loses every single combat. And I call BS to what Dad was talking about, because Dad's Balrog has actually accomplished something. I've had him kill my Spider Queen before. He's killed some guys. My Balrog has a collective kill count of 2 models over the course of like 2 or 3 games.
That is impressive.
I have never had a model
bad.
perform worse than my Balrog. Every combat he was in, he botched. One time, I even got him on the Witch King. I was higher fight. If I killed the Witch King, I would have won the game, and I rolled like a 3 highest on my 4 dice, and I lost, and it was so sad. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how whenever I play against an opponent with the Balrog, all of the dices, there's 6 sides are all 6s, and that's all that they roll. But then when I play him, all of my dice transmorph into just all 1s. So Balrog rant over, into my actual pick, which is the Mumak, which now that I think about it is exactly the same thing, where you put him down and then either you win the lottery or you lose the lottery, because either he runs over your entire army or just he sits there the entire game and accomplishes nothing and you run over his entire army. I've had games where like I play perfectly for like 8 turns and I'm destroying their army, and then the Mumak wins 1 heroic move roll off and runs over my entire army, and then they win the game. And it's like, well, that was fun. That definitely felt like a completely fine game that was incredibly enjoyable. So I think I guess to end my rant over these models is that any model over like 300 points is like intrinsically just an awful model because of how swingy it makes the game and how it
Yeah.
centralizes the game. And just whenever I play those models, I never have fun playing them because they're always horrible for me, and I never have fun playing against them because it feels like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Just really funny because the one avid Mumak player I know also hates the Balrog because the Balrog always whips the driver off the stupid Mumak. So it seems
I just
it seems
call
to
that
be a
karma,
trend.
honestly.
Yep.
I don't disagree though. It's like when you slap a model like that on the table, it just becomes a mini game of like, can I deal with this or will it eat me before I can deal with it? And it becomes all about that one thing. And because they're so swingy, there are games where you can do everything pretty much right and still lose because they just happen to roll really hot, right? Whether it be a good trample off of like a good move or something that you failed, or the Balrog, getting a really improbable whip at a heroic combat into something. Like it becomes a very binary game. I completely agree with that. To a degree, Smaug is like that too, right? Again, any model over 300.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
spoilers.
right. Well, I'm changing the topic of the episode to why we hate the Balrog. So it doesn't matter what you wrote down anymore. We're just gonna go with this.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in defense of these models, right?
Here comes the lawyer.
Yeah. So
the rules were written for this reason.
I mean, how could you have a Lord of the Rings miniatures game without a Balrog and without a Mumak? And
Well, I don't think anyone's saying they shouldn't
I'm
be
actually
in the
gonna
game.
go with Matt.
yeah,
Matt
all
on
right,
this.
then we just hate him. Yeah, okay.
No.
I mean, that's fair.
I just think the profile has to be rewritten for the Balrog for a more enjoyable game experience.
I have a solution. Just go back to the old edition where they were all terrible, so no one's gonna use them and no one's gonna have that problem.
The Mumak is
Make them
harder.
bad. They're still in the game, but no one's gonna use them. See,
I will-
both people are happy.
I could rewrite the Balrog's profile easily, but the Mumak is a harder situation because the just trampling in of itself makes total sense for the model to have. It's thematic as it does it, but I do get the problem that can occur. So that is a much harder problem to fix, admittedly.
I mean,
I think I'm more of a problem with the war leader than like the normal Mumak, because why does the war leader stop your heroic moves? Why does he do that?
because
Why-
he has
why
a
is it
certain
12
aura
inches?
about him. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Why does this happen? Why does he have 3 might? Why is he impossible to shoot out because if he's got like defense 5 and like 50 wounds and 2 fate and stuff like that?
Just
Like
2 wounds.
why is all of the count the war leader is 3 wounds and 2 fate?
Oh,
I
is he
think.
3? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he's
That's
quite
beefy.
something. The
And
king.
is he naturally a harbinger, or is that just the Legion that gives him that?
I think it's just the Legion.
I think he has natural magic's resistance, right?
Yeah, from the Mumak, I believe, right?
You get that from the Mumak.
Yeah, you get that Mumak.
So like everything you can do to a normal Mumak, you can't really do to the war Mumak because you can't heroic move because he cancels it. You can't shoot out the guy because he's super beefy. And you can't like magic out the Mumak because he's got 3 will and resistant to magic. So you're basically just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Well, and you're
which is
assumedly playing him in the
not fun.
Legion, so he can also strike for his elephant and combat for his elephant, right?
Yeah.
So
And I just want a disclaimer to anyone new watching this, like none of us are saying these models are broken or impossible to beat or anything. I think everyone on this podcast has beaten these models in tournaments and competitive play. So it's once again, just to reiterate, we just don't like the experience of having to fight these models.
So I will say, at least for the Balrog and the Mumak, I have had really fun games against both of them, but it is a very different game. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when one of these things shows up on the table, you are not playing the same game where you have your shield wall and your heroes and you're trying to like get your hero into the right position and call heroic combats and get your shield wall. You're playing a completely different game. And this is a game of there's this big giant thing at the table and you got to like position and hide in nooks and crannies in the terrain and around buildings so that you can sucker this thing in and ambush it and charge it and kill it. And that game has nothing to do with the other 4 or 5 games you're going to play during the course of this tournament. It's
Mhm.
It's like this mini game within the SPG game, and you just have to view it that way. That this is just this game I'm about to play is something else, and you got to figure out how how this army that you brought to like fight in a shield wall and like kill heroes and stuff like that is now going to deal with this giant stampeding thing.
I mean, I have no problem with these models in like casual games at home. Then it becomes kind of fun. It's the point of them. I have no problem with them in narrative. But when I rock up to the Nova Open and it's hold ground and I have a war leader, I'm like, really? The scenario I have to be standing in the middle against the trample monster? Like, come on, right?
No, you got to figure out a way to kill it.
Well, I mean, it's just like you do what you have to do, but it becomes a different game and it doesn't necessarily become a fun game.
And then there's that one guy with hobbits who shows up who is literally nothing they can do against the War Moon.
Yeah.
70 models.
That's not true. They can perfectly decorate its hide with new paint.
I'm pretty
Little
sure
red spots everywhere.
I can just
the
picture
dummy
them,
trap
like-
works on them.
Actually,
The dummy trap does work on them. That's an effective solution.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
That's some like Stone Age stuff where they made a giant hole for the mammoth to fall
No.
in, right?
You know what it is? It's a mouse, right?
It's
And the
amazing.
Woomac's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Rainier is never going to be able to say his pick.
No, never. You guys ready for it?
Luckily, his pick is the Balrog.
Please tell
so-
me it's the Moomac.
It is Smaug.
Ah, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yeah, there we
There you
go. There we go. We're like Belrog, a bigger model, Mumuk, a bigger model, Smaug. And the next one's gonna be Matt's dog with the Easterling helmet. And it just gets bigger. So Smaug, for my reason, it solely comes as a tournament organizer. Every single person hates playing against it. And if you play well against it, even the player hates the game. So I don't know. Not saying that they shouldn't have made it. You should have that fun experience and be able to like spend 700 points on a model that just wrecks because that's 700 points and do what you want. But I just don't like seeing it because it's not that fun to play against. I don't know. It makes people angry, and then to play against it, I have won against it. You have to do cheeky things and like
You have
really
to, yeah,
not make it
Jesus.
fun. I mean, I saw Devin play it. You remember Devin that game?
Oh,
You had,
I've beaten him
the two
3
wizards
times
and
by making my opponent hate life.
yeah. So it's like it's not fun for anyone, you know
It's
what I
not
mean? Like
fun.
unless you feed the troops, but like if you're there to win or you're there to play and you want to compete, you're not just gonna be like, oh, here's my Aragorn, please kill him. Here's my models, please kill them. You're gonna be really cheeky and just
Mhm.
be like, okay, you killed one Gondorian this round. Okay, you killed another Gondorian this round. I got 46. So we could do this. We're not gonna play 46 rounds. So for me, it just isn't a fun experience for both players.
I got to be
I've-
fair to
I've
the game
played
designer on
against-
this. Oh, God.
I've played against Smaug once, and I killed him turn 1 with the Morgul Blade. So honestly, I just don't know what you
Don't know what
guys
the
are
problem
talking
is.
about.
Well,
Like,
see,
you
no,
guys
but
just
that's
must
inherently
just
what it
suck at
is.
the game.
Evan, that proves the point,
That's
though.
not fun for the Smaug
That-
player. That's what we're saying.
No, I think
That's
you
the
guys are just
point.
bad.
It's
honestly.
either
You're
it's
just
got to
bad.
be the Smaug is a bad experience for one player or another. It just depends on what scenario and what the armies are. One of those players is going to have a terrible time, and almost guaranteed with that thing. Like, I got to be fair to the rules
I'm
writers
sure
though,
the
because
player I played against had fun. He got to go to lunch early.
Yeah, I'm sure that was exactly what he wanted to do with his $400 model that
Uh-huh.
he spent like 3 months of his life painting up.
After
Go to lunch
you
early.
decided on a whim because you had 10 points hanging to throw in the blade. Because why not?
Yeah, right.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a skill issue to me. I mean, like,
The Smaug is an impossible model to write rules for a tournament setting. Honestly, it's one of those things where I don't think they did anything wrong. I almost should say just this is a scenario model. I would not recommend playing this in tournaments and call it a day.
Yeah.
It's not meant for it. And what Rainier is alluding to is, we've beaten Smaug in so many ways where it almost basically involves making the opponent not play the game. Like, and sometimes it's just the scenario. You hit the scenario and it's either you have no chance or Smaug has no chance. Like, that's It's just but that's an impossible.
That's just I think you framed it perfectly. You said one player is just not going to have a good time. It could be the Smog player, it could be you.
Yeah.
And when things are heated and at an event and stuff, and you go to play to have fun, it just doesn't make everybody happy.
On the flip side, though,
On
the flip side, though, if you're the person who brought Smog to the event, you kind of have it coming, right? Like, you know what you're doing. You know you're not going to win. You're just going to ruin someone else's tournament. So, like, take your Morgul blade to the face, and I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah. So I do have to say, unlike the Mumak, Smaug is like the model that I think should be banned for tournament play for the reason that we all said.
That's why every Nova I will never unban that model.
Yeah.
I have hated it. I've gone into Articon fighting that thing twice now. I forgot. No, Rainier was your tournament, or I think it was, but I just am like, oh my god! Every time I've gotten it, I hated it. It's
guys, it's a display model. Leave it at home on the mantelpiece.
Yeah.
Well, and when it's not banned, it's always going to show up at least once, and then it's like, oh, please don't draw that. Please don't draw that. Right?
Yeah.
I will say there is one other thing about Smaug that drives me absolutely bananas, and it's the fact that Smaug is not a siege target. Smaug is a battlefield target.
Oh god,
and I get
know.
it. The whole thing is like, oh, but he's flying around, right?
Yeah.
But like a Mummock is running and Smaug has to land sometime. He's the size of 3 Mummocks. Like, this cannot possibly be, that hard to hit when it lands on the ground, especially considering that canonically it was killed by a siege target. So like, that drives me absolutely bananas.
You know what? I actually had introduced, I think I pitched it to Jay during Nova once or something, but I was just like, why can't like this model and maybe the Mummock have a rule that's like too big to miss, where you don't need to take in the ways firing all your arrows? It's like Smaug gets into combat with one Gondorian and we're all like, hold on. I don't know our chances here.
Stop, Argoneer, stop.
That's right.
Hold your firemen.
Meanwhile, the archer's like, this thing's the size of the Colosseum. I'm not gonna hit him.
Timmy's in trouble, guys.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, the reason he's not a siege target is if he was a siege target, if you hit him with a siege weapon, it would do 1 point of damage to him. That's why he's not a siege target. But
even
well,
I see, because he can't be instant killed unless he's a battlefield target, kind of thing.
Correct.
Well, right now as a battlefield target, it does half wounds, but like it's one of those things that breaks the narrative for me so much that I'm like, how is this flying triple elephant so hard to hit? Right?
Yeah.
I think if you could always shoot at him, it would make it slightly more interesting. Just knowing you just hold him off and just lob every shot
you have at him,
and it just knowing the ways are required for this model.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I actually really liked, this was in the previous edition where before they're clarified it in an FAQ, he could technically be one-shotted by a single thing in the game, and it was the Wind Lance, right? Because it would trigger his rule to do half damage, and then he'd take half damage for being hit by a siege engine, and it would do the full amount of wounds to him.
If you got a 6, I think.
If you got a 6. Yeah. So like on a perfect shot with a Wind Lance, you could one-shot him, which I was like, this is the most thematic thing I've ever seen in a war game. I love this. So they FAQ'd it away and then changed it again. But because it was literally like the one time that was ever going to happen is if you took Bard with a siege engine and he used all his might to make sure to get it and you rolled perfectly, and it would have been so cinematic. But no, but you have to hit him twice.
That is really unfortunate, actually, now that I forgot about that they FAQ'd that out. Yeah, I believe that's previous edition anyway, so that's but it was a thing that went from I love this to I hate this like overnight, right? Well, good choice. I guess, Rob, what's your second?
Oh, I'm back up. So I'm gonna stick to my particular line of reasoning, which is this drives me bananas, more from kind of a lore perspective than anything else. So my second pick it's more of a blanket pick. Orc shamans, goblin shamans, basically any low level like derp caster. Because in the world of Tolkien, magic is this like subtle thing that the wizards even barely ever use, and when you see it, it's incredible, and nobody, it's supposed to be this rare thing. But then like suddenly like Bill the Goblin walks in and like shatters the earth, and like
Shadows Narso.
Doofus face the orc shaman's like, everyone's fearless and you're frozen, and it's like, why and how? It just, I hate it. Broadly applies to all like non-named casters that shouldn't have magic anyway. So like wizards, ringwraiths, obviously the Mouth of Sauron, fine. Even the elf Stormcaller, because elves are inherently magical beings, but like really goblins, I hate it. I absolutely can't stand the like shaman level characters in the game. They're good. Assault on Lothlorien has shown us they're wonderful and you should take them, but they just drive me bananas.
I think
Again, more of a lore thing than anything.
A brief aside, like Kardouche. Like,
Right.
what did he do? Like, why is he killing half of his own army and then killing half of your army as well? Like,
And then
I've
getting
never
like
understood
French
that.
kissed by a ringwraith to death. Like, where did this guy come from, right?
I recently played in a tournament and my helm got killed by Kardouche, like in combination with some black darts from the Witch King. But I took 2 wounds on helm from flame burst from Kardouche, and it's like, why? How is the 60-point orc running around and throwing fireballs,
Well,
just like and killing my army?
I think
isn't this guy the ascetic from? I mean, this is what the ascetic comes back as from Rings of Power season 1, right? It's going to be reborn as an orc.
Did not age well.
Guy. Yeah.
I,
Look, I mean, that spell is now canon, right?
That's true.
yeah.
You
To
know
be
that.
fair, it
Well,
was-
I mean,
was
Ken
always
within
canon.
that world, it depends on if it gets into GW's game, but I
Saruman had it.
I think the intent originally when they were made was to. I think back when they made the ability, it probably wasn't as impactful. I'm not sure, but like it probably should have been something roughly of like you spend a will and he does what like Bomber does, where he raises their spirit of one guy, like or something like that. And I'm not saying it's worth 45 points, but I think their intent was for it to be like somewhat psychological what they could achieve, but somehow then that translated to a bubble of fury or the ability to shatter anything somehow. So
if all they had was fury and it was like, okay, I can explain that the mechanic in game is magic because that's the mechanic we have, but the lore is that they're really just like working them up into almost like a trance, right? That they're completely, but like, why is Derpicus the goblin immobilizing Aragorn? Like, it just makes no sense, right? And
Hey,
no matter how
Derpicus-
improbable that is, but
Derpicus the Goblin is fully capable of immobilizing Aragorn. I don't see what the problem
that
is.
was
there.
a
Someone
bad
hasn't read the
example, 'cause
appendix.
Derpicus is a pretty big character in the Legendarium. But let's go with Frederick the Orc. How about that?
in comment section below, everyone, let us know if you think Derpicus could transfix Aragorn.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the YouTube
It just drives
video.
me nuts. I hate the shaman level casters, and I have from the beginning. And they're not breaking the game, and they're not bad models. None of that. I just irrationally, like, it makes no sense to me that Derpicus and Galadriel drank from the same Kool-Aid, right?
I really want to see the YouTube video on Derpicus versus Aragorn. Who would win?
Oh man, I guess. All right, well, yeah. So I guess for my second choice, or actually third choice, which is my top one, was Smaug. So we'll skip that one. So my only last pick.
So we're at Balrog ×3 and Smaug ×2.
Yeah, right.
I see a theme.
Clearly a theme. My only last one. It's not that I hate the model, but as a tournament organizer, it's frustrating that it could be fixed so simply and they won't do it. But that's the Signal Tower.
I knew you were
Oh,
going to go there
yeah.
to 11.
And it honestly, the model's fine. Everything about it's fine, but they just won't tell everyone it's the flags, not the mountain. And like somehow this mountain is moving throughout Middle Earth.
Are you telling me this? Are you telling me this is like this is the Signal deck? This is the Signal
Yeah.
platform now?
It's the Signal Tower. It's
Like a spaceship.
it's
Because we all know towers are like 6 inches. You know,
Mhm.
they only
like
they only
5
go
turns
6
just to
inches off
climb
the
it.
ground.
You know
can just
what?
Take an easy step up onto them.
They should have called it the Signal platform. Why not?
They didn't.
I don't
It's
know if
clearly a tower.
I don't know if any of you played the old Warhammer Fantasy, but there was a magic item that was like Fosric's folding flying tower or something, where like he had it in his pocket and then you'd throw it out and a magical watchtower would appear. That's literally what this is, right? Like Azog, where he goes, he throws his Pokeball and a tower comes out.
And it should operate like a siege weapon. They already have rules for siege weapons about they show up 6 inches in the battlefield. They're already existing. Why is it this one is just like, oh shit, we somehow got it over there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with this thing? I'm surprised like we haven't seen people go to Warhammer World. It's just a mountain that's like 12 inches wide. Just a full wall.
Their whole display board is just like a display board. It's not a display board. It's part of the game.
So I agree with you that it would be great if GW came up with, if they're not going to put out a model of the siege tower, put out parameters of what the thing is, right? I think Adam Troke has gone on record saying that the one that they play tested with was the size of a dinner plate, and let us know how high the thing is and like how easy it is to get up.
Dinner plates are different all across the world.
I was just about to say,
they're going to change it when a Polish person's going to win Nova with it.
Yeah, so it's
that's when they're going to really be upset.
It's going to be 8 inches across, and you have to have 2 stairways up
12
or
inches
whatever.
up.
And it's 6 inches
why is
high.
it 12 inches? You're like, I get a 12-inch sub on it. Like,
Just say what it is so we can use it, and we can, because there's so many fun tactics you can use with that thing, and it's so darn expensive that if you can't use the fun tactics, it's not usable.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm not even sure it was intended to be usable, to be honest.
Well, look, if it wasn't intended to be usable, then why put it there, right? I mean, they shouldn't put something in and say, here's this thing that you can play with, but you'd be a fool to do it.
True.
Granted,
it should probably be like,
the rules.
To be fair, then it should probably be like, less points, maybe come with less lieutenants. Maybe it only comes with 4, 1 man in each tower, and any other person can I don't know, but like, make it 100 points at that point. But I do get the shenanigans of the tower is what allowed you to win, multiple events, I think, right? Like your games.
No, I never won an event with it. I came in 4th at Nova with it. I think that was, I think that was actually the only time I took it to. That was the only time I took it to a tournament, was when I came in 4th at Nova.
Okay.
And,
it's not like and once again, just for the viewers here, I'm not saying this is a broken thing or it's overpowered, nothing along that sort. It's like, this is such an easy problem to fix. They haven't fixed it. But
yeah, no, I mean, they really should just
so
say
easy to just give it parameters, right? Like this is the base that you're using, and it's this tall, right? And then a lot of the logistical headaches are fixed, right? Because everybody knows what it looks like and what to expect.
Yeah, and by the way, for everybody out there who's like, no, it should just be a platform that has four banners on it. No, it's the signal tower. It's it's supposed to have height. That's what that's kind of the defining characteristic of a tower. But just tell us what it is so that we can.
Yeah, they should just make a model of Forge World. It'd be perfect.
Well, I'm sure that's the reason they won't specify parameters, is to not lock themselves into a corner with a model. But that's the frustrating part. It's just like,
but they're never going to make the model.
Yeah,
they're never going to make the model.
I, for one, eat all of my dinners off of a giant turkey serving dish. So, I mean, I think that's a perfectly reasonable size.
Yes, someone's going to show up with grandma's family heirloom, and I'll put that's like 24 inches long.
Yeah.
All right, who's next?
I think I'm next.
I think that's Matt. Yeah.
All right. So my nominee is the Witch King, because the Witch King is like the model that everybody else in the world can make work but me. And my Witch King is.
Are you talking when the Dunedain killed him at Eisenkond?
Jeez, and it almost happened again today. But yeah, so my Witch King is his incompetence is matched and exceeded only by the Balrog. And he doesn't get spells off. In fact, I don't think I played a game with him today, and because I was like, I hadn't played with him forever. I was like, I should really try a Ring Wraith again, and I'll try the Witch King, and I'll bring him out. He did not get a single spell off in like a 6-turn game. And crown
and all, huh?
Yeah, crown and all. And I mean, and not only, I mean, he lost a roll up to Halbrad and some Dunedain and ended up like taking 3 wounds, all of which he managed to fate. But then, he's like, of course he did what my Witch King inevitably does, which is just run away. It's the only thing he can do effectively. He gets away and he's like, all right, I see this one ranger out there all by himself, and I've got my trusty Morgul Knight to go in with me. So the 2 of us are going to go into this guy and charge into him and take him apart. And by the way, this Dunedain is in a yellow alliance, so it's only got 1 attack. And goes in, and of course the Dunedain wins. And he did manage to not do the killing wound to my Witch King, but I don't know what it is about the Witch King, but he is my Faramir. I know his qualities, and they are few.
Yeah. No, I
know
get
why
that
everybody
because,
else but me can make this model work.
There is no game in which Faramir has not failed to disappoint me for reasons that defy logic, physics, probability. Like, it's just something about that model in my care will automatically just fail everything at all the wrong times.
So I think what has happened is Sauron has gone up to your Faramir, given him a ring, and then bequeathed him to me. And that's how I ended up with my Witch King. So
your Witch King is literally just Faramir a couple thousand years after wearing a ring. I'm so sorry, Matt. I'm so sorry. By the way, I love that your list is basically just like ex-girlfriends that have scorned me.
That's right. And I keep coming back to, and
and you'll never forgive them for it.
Yeah, I'm like a domestic abuse victim. I have no sense of pattern recognition. I keep coming back thinking, but this time it's going to be different.
I can change him, this Witch King of mine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Evan, what's bigger than Smaug?
Well, not speaking of domestic abuse victims, actually. I've been consistently abused by one Bard the Bowman. In basically every single game I play with him. And I have a general rule of thumb for Bard, which is that Bard does not have 6 might, Bard has 2 might. Because every single time I play with Bard, like 50% of those times I roll 2 ones, and 50% of the other 50% I roll at least 1-1. So my Bard is never on 6 might, which then starts with what I like to call the opening botch. Now, this happens in every single game I play with Bard ever, where he goes into 2 guys, he calls his heroic combat, and he rolls the 2 highest on his 4 dice. And then he either burns every single point of might, or he loses his horse. Those are the 2 options. And this is a consistent trend that my Bard loves to do in absolutely every single game, and it drives me insane. And if he didn't have that 12-inch buff to all Lake Town militia, I would never take him ever in any game. And every time I play Survivors of Lake Town, I wish I could just remove him and take, like, 30 more Lake Town militia instead, because the Lake Town militia always win me the games, and Bard just flounders around and does nothing, and then tries to go in and kill a hero and loses to that hero and almost dies, and then hides in a corner and cries. That's basically what my Bard does.
Actually, what actually happens is Evan hides in the corner and cries, but
well, what I do is I pick up the Bard model from the table because he doesn't deserve to be on the table, and then I cradle him, and then I run into a corner, and then I cry for 10 straight minutes. Actually, we've gone through 5 Bard models because I've crushed them every time he loses.
Evan, have you ever considered taking Bard without Grima in his warband? That might help. You're supposed to take Alfred. I don't know if you've just been.
I've honestly, no joke, considered taking Bard without the girls just to be the cheapest banner option possible for my Lake Town militia, because like the girls give him nothing for me because I never get a heroic combat off because he botches every combat. So it's honestly just like, maybe I should just take him on foot, 145 points or however much he is, and just have him sit behind my lines and give out the 12-inch banner to my Lake Town militia, because he is not doing anything.
Well, I guess he could just sit and shoot his bow, right? From the safety
Oh
of
no,
not a heroic
he
combat.
misses his first shot every single time. I've tried that, Rob, but Bard finds a way.
Well, but if you don't take the girls, how are you going to pay the tax to the most sadistic child murderer in all of Middle Earth, Legolas, who exists solely to kill little girls?
Oh, actually, Legolas almost made it on my list as well. And if we were to go to a third one, I would be talking about Legolas because I hate that model as well. But yes, he loves to kill children.
But yes, he likes to kill children. End sentence. Anybody who
I mean, I feel like that puts my point across pretty well.
Will be like, what?
Well, I heard that like Orlando Bloom does that too, right? Like he'll just like sneak into a random person's house and just murder all of their children. So it's a actor thing. It's not just Legolas.
For the record, this is being filmed in the United States and not in Britain, so libel laws do not apply, Mr. Orlando Bloom.
Yes, opinions expressed on this podcast are not actually the opinions of this podcast.
Right, so Bard the Zero Man. Who do you have, Rainier, for your number 2?
I'm going to bring us back to The Hobbit and say I absolutely despise the Goblin King.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just think for like a list like Goblin Town where you can get like 100 models plus, he plugs in so many holes to make the army not broken, but towing the line almost broken, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think his blubberly mass is a little too much. The idea that he can knock down a ring wraith by throwing his model, knock Gandalf off his horse, knock Boromir Elendil off his horse. It's just the one weakness of Goblin Town should be like in the film where you just cut through them left and right and kill them and stuff. And I think he kind of takes that away, especially that Gollum's in the list. I think that's just totally ridiculous. Gollum's like hiding in the tunnels. And when it comes to SPG, he's like, we're gonna fight with the Goblin King and we're gonna kill Thranduil. Like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's just the Goblin King. I hate him. Also, whenever I wound him, he rolls a 4+ for his blood rate mass, and I can't actually wound him.
Don't worry,
I will say that on top of that, the whole like I can just move through my own goblins with impunity, so you can't even like position around him because he will run through all his goblins, of which there are 100. So
yeah, and meanwhile the Balrog's like, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to get through. Can you please move?
I honestly think that should just be a monster universal rule or something. Like, if the Goblin King
can do like an evil monster universal rule, you could have your trolls do it or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
It'd just be a thing.
Trolls more competitive, actually.
I also,
obviously within the evil team, because the Ents or whatever wouldn't do that. But
yeah, I also think like the Goblin King being basically a troll with like 3 might is a bit too much, especially in the movies. If you're taking off the movies, he like pushed Gandalf and Gandalf killed him. And like really easily, and he was like, oh dear, and he like fallen there, died. So it's kind of like, I get it, the Hobbit released and they wanted to release these super powerful models, which we have to admit they like rolled back a little bit, and I think they should have rolled him back a little bit.
Isn't he also like fearless and magic resistant and all sorts of?
He's magic resistant, which
not fearless. But you could have given a cool rule because he sings in the books and the movie. You could have made him less powerful combat-y and given him like a cool.
He should be a singer, like a singer that has leadership capability and qualities. Like the fact that he's a fight 6, like. Well, or fight 5 or 6. No, he's strength 6. That's right.
When you say he's like a singer, do you mean like the player should actually have to sing songs while he's?
To be honest, most of the players will sing songs if they have the ability to sing with it.
With our
okay, he's got cave dweller resistant to magic terror. That's
what fight is he? He's fight 6, right?
He's fight 5 and
he's fight 6.
Oh, he's fight 6.
Yeah.
I was correct.
That's where it takes it.
Oh my god!
3 attacks, 3 wounds.
Fight 6, come on, like he's out fighting Gandalf.
I do agree with you that the whole like I'm gonna throw a goblin and dismount anything.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Treebeard's like watching this going, dude, I hit that guy with a boulder and it just bounced
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the fact that
Meanwhile,
he
this
knocks
little
people
screaming
down,
goblin,
that should be a gimmicky rule that he has, that he can just do a strength 3 hit. That's it.
Mhm.
Like that's
Yeah.
the end of that. It should not knock anybody down, or if it knocks anyone down, it'd be a man-sized model at most.
Right. Yeah.
But
Does
Well,
it
I mean, look,
only
I
knock
could-
you down if it wounds, or just if it hits?
no,
you?
it just does
It's-
it.
it's-
So if
Yeah.
it knocks you down, if it also wounded you or something, maybe. But like if you just hit, like you
Yeah,
can't.
you
play around
literally
that, right?
hit a ring wraith and it just knocks it off the
Yeah,
thing.
it's
Like
pretty
he's
BS.
got a Sammy Sosa softball pitch.
He's Nolan Ryan, just like talking at like 105 miles per hour, like without even caring.
It's because he's got Derpicus on his belt, so he just throws that goblin.
Look, watch me do it sidearm.
And like a boomerang, he comes back.
That would be great. And meanwhile, Treebeard's still like, but I've got a boulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
No, but that cavalryman's still on his horse.
You mentioned Gollum in the list too, which is something that drives me crazy, kind of with the Balrog being the best buddy of the goblins somehow. Like Gollum was spent his whole life hiding from this entire army. How is he like the personal
he was
like,
killing
attack
them.
dog?
I was going to say,
right?
he spent his whole life
killing.
eating this army.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like,
not even just that, like even if you do add Gollum to the list, like give him a rule like Denethor. He doesn't pass his courage test, he has to attack a goblin.
sure.
Like it's just like
I don't know why they let him
Goblin
follow
count
them into
is-
battle, but
Yeah, but it's like
Much
you
less
see
in
army,
like
it's
the
like-
warband, right? Like literally
Yeah.
leading this personal mascot of theirs.
No, it's like a tack squad, him and the Goblin King, and they just kill stuff. So I feel like this army is a little not lazy, but like it should have been fixed, tweaked a little bit. Goblin shouldn't be there. You can fix it by like giving him a Denethor rule, and fight 6 is too much with 3 attacks, 3 might, and the Blubbery Mass. Like unless you're going up against a Thranduil, like nothing really.
Yeah.
well, the Blubby Mass in particular, it's like his fat is stronger than most armor.
Mhm.
So I mean,
It's not
more than
stronger
Benny
than
Bismarck,
Wicker,
actually.
apparently, in Middle Earth, since Wicker armor always gives you like defense 7. But
They were wearing chainmail underneath. That actually would be a really fun rule for Gollum, is if like you were always rolling that die, that the die with the ring where like on a 1 or a 2 your opponent gets to move him and charge
Mhm.
stuff and like kill stuff with him.
that actually would, yeah, and that honestly it would be appropriate. So
Yeah.
balance him a little bit. I still don't think he should be in the army, but
Well, I mean, look, he's on the board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Query whether he's in the army or not, but he's on the board.
well,
ironically, the
certainly
One
shouldn't
Ring
be able to be
rules-
taken in war bands. I think like nobody should be able to lead Gollum, right?
Right.
One,
He should be he
And-
should be a true independent hero who just
right.
just
And
is
in the
there,
same
yeah.
in the same book, you have Thrain the Broken that has a mechanic between like good and evil. So why doesn't Gollum have something like that, right?
Yeah, that's what he should be. He should be like
Thrain,
Thrain the
Denethor.
Broken. Yeah.
Yeah, if the Goblin King couldn't have him in his warband as a personal attack dog, and he was just thematically in the army, it would be fine.
He's got him on like a chain.
Well, and then paired with the fact that the Goblin King can literally just like go sit on goblins to create a space for him to come with him, like it's too much.
All right.
agree with
So
all of
Rob,
that.
what's your third and final one?
Okay, well, I mean, this is clearly a trend with me where my inner Tolkien nerd gets very offended. My third is, and I don't disagree with any of the ones you picked, by the way, but my third is The Dweller in the Dark. What the hell is this thing? Why? Like, so now the Balrog has babies? Like,
It's the
what
Balrog
is
baby. It's
this?
definitely
You know
the
what?
pickup.
Right?
What blows my mind is why is it Balrog babies? They look like Gullivar babies, and they act in
Balrog
game
and
like.
Gullivar had a baby. Plot twist. Gullivar's in one. That's
This
what
makes so much sense. The two models that I hate had a baby, right? Like,
and you just hate the child so much. You're like, I
but
hate it.
seriously, like, what? So, like, they're going through Moria, and it's watch out for the Balrog and also his legion of children. Like, what the hell is this thing? I don't like it. Again, the model is horrible. Like, what is this weird, like, chicken-legged, crazy-looking thing? I have no idea where the hell they came up with mini Balrogs as a concept. Like, one Balrog in Moria is enough. It just, why does this exist?
I mean, look, I will say this: they're great looking figures.
I hate them. I hate them.
You also hate Faramir, and he's a perfectly cromulent model.
You know what? I hate Faramir, but that new plastic is awesome. I love that model.
This might sound weird, but I kind of wish they were in Angmar more than Moria, but only because they make more sense to the lore of how Gullivar operates, and they look like Gullivar.
Creative with it, because like Amar is like, what happened? Like all these dark things came from the books, and you don't really know they have the Barrow Whites and all this like interesting.
Yeah, like if it must exist, then it just made good. But I remember they painted it to look like the Balrog, and I'm like, but his rules operate like a vampire. So it just was kind of unusual. Like he didn't display traits of the Balrog. But.
I'm going with
He took from
the
his
Balrog
father,
and
not his
Gullivar had a
father.
baby theory.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Well, they are baby Balrogs because just like the wings are made of shadow, and that's why they can't fly. They're baby Balrogs.
Well, and I know people who have run armies that are just the Balrog and a bunch of dwellers, and like that's one thing. But why is this thing in a Moria army? Like, why is it following goblins? How are they like leading like these primordial Balrog love children from the first age? It makes no sense to me. And it just offends me on some weird like nerd level.
It offends me.
It triggers you, Rob.
I am triggered.
Yeah,
I am
totally
triggered. So
that'll be the title of the episode: "The Bastard Children of the Balrog and Gullivar."
Yeah. Now I want everybody to picture that carefully. How that happens.
Okay.
Well, my third option was already taken, so or done.
Smaug.
So
Smug's
Matt, I guess it's on to you.
All right, so I guess my third option is the Kondish King, and this is another guy that I
Whoa, hot take, hot take.
man.
Yeah,
Fighting words.
You're walking dangerous waters, man.
I don't.
So first of all, let me ask you, Matt, how long did you date and when did you break up?
Why don't you like evil men?
So the Kondish King and I went out on a few dates, and then he completely ghosted me. And when I say he completely ghosted me, I mean I don't think I have ever succeeded in trampling anybody with this bottle. You know what inevitably happens whenever I take a Kondish King is he charges like one defense 5 guy, doesn't run him over, and then is immediately swarmed by the rest of the guy's army and dies instantly. This is what inevitably happens to me every time I bring this guy out. And Rainier, I don't know how you do it, but
no, they are fickle. Like they're really fickle to play
He
with.
rolls 5s and 6s.
Yeah,
that's what happened to all of Evan's old bard models. Matt put them on chariots and is wondering why they're awful.
Yeah.
No, it is like a interesting thing to think about, because it is Khan just is really delicate, but also what gets me is he has like 50 banners. They're way bigger than any other banners, and he doesn't get the banner points for the victory points. That's just what gets me. But I do agree with you, Matt, and I would say the chieftain's a lot better because the king is like 135 points, and you don't really get what you give in points from him. So I don't
know. Wouldn't it be kind of weird or cool if, like, as an army bonus, if you had a pure faction, then Kondish, a Kond army always counts as having a banner and always counts as under the influence of a banner, like just the Kond.
That'd be really cool, and they could
everyone has a banner on their back.
Yeah, everyone's got one.
But that's a good idea, because it's like you always get that victory point. It's like whatever you break them, he has one model left, and he's like 2 victory points.
So
Kond is the most like egotistical, self-absorbed army ever. Everyone has their own banner and benefits from it because they're just so in love with themselves.
Legion or something that gives them kind of, because like I have the models, so naturally Games Workshop has to make it just for me because I need it. I really need it. But like something cool, like I've always said it, I think I said in like 3 other episodes, give a new Kondish hero that can only go on horse and give him the Sharku rule where he can ambush.
Yeah.
There was a named Kondish hero in like one of the old Legions of Middle-earth books, but it never got a model or anything.
Yeah, Kaisumu the Ravager.
Yeah, it would be really Ravager of
cool.
Ithilien, right?
He was the Ravager of Ithilien. Yeah,
it would be cool in a future supplement someday if they picked back up on that and had him be like the named Kondish character.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I do have to say, Rainier, to respond to your point about the Kondish chieftain being better, my experience with the Kondish chieftains is I run into a model I don't run it over. I'm stopped. And then, somebody's Fight 6 hero comes through, comes through with his buddies, strike, calls a heroic combat, and then like emerges from the wreckage of the chariot on the other side, and somebody turns and goes, "What was that we just rode through?" And the hero goes, "I don't know. I think it might have been some sort of Kondish chieftain. I'm not really sure. It's not important. Just
it's a greasy smear on my shirt. Not sure what happened."
Exactly.
Yeah, Matt is sitting there listfully scrolling through Instagram, looking at his Kondish chieftain killing people in Rainier's army. So
That's right. Left, swipe left.
All right.
Anybody else have a third they want to throw? Well, Legolas, I want to hear about your hatred for the child killer.
So the killer of children and the bane of all horses, Legolas himself, is just a model that just makes me so angry. Because whenever I see him across the table, I know that all of my poor sweet horses are all dead. Like all of my horses on my heroes are instantly dead. And then if I've ever decided to bring like Círdan or Boromir without the shield, or any model like that has that's very strong but has low wounds and low defense, they're just dead on startup, because my opponent's Legolas is going to do 1 wound every single time, every time he shoots, and it's a nightmare, and it's horrible, and I hate it. And then I take him, and then I roll 1s on every single to hit roll with his shots, and then he just runs into combat and then kills stuff that way. My Legolas is actually pretty good in combat, to be honest. He's killed like quite a number of guys, but I cannot shoot anything. Like I need to burn 2 might to kill a horse off of a hero with my Legolas. And it just drives me insane that like a model where you basically just roll a die and see if you do a wound to either a horse or a warrior or anything like that just exists, because there's no counterplay. Like other than taking your 160-point hero and hiding him behind a wall so Legolas can't shoot at him, there is no way around Legolas. He will always be able to shoot you no matter what. And God forbid you go up against Legolas and Floey with like the Undying on Fellbeast. I've had that happen once. And it's basically just you throw him in the trash immediately on turn 1 because he's dead.
It's kind of more of an older edition thing, though. I don't see that.
Yeah, no one plays the Undying anymore. But imagine taking the Necromancer, taking your 250-point model, and looking across the table. And
Floey is
just
also
Legolas
hard to
in a
ally
Floey.
with
He
because I mean, as
is
soon as
now.
you take him,
Yeah, what we're saying, Evan, is who hurt you?
Yeah.
Well, the answer is
Legolas. Pretty obvious.
Yeah, you've had experience.
Legolas and Floey hurt me very badly in a tournament game, where my Undying leader was deleted on turn 1, and it made me super sad. And then every time I play Legolas afterwards, I'm just scarred, and all of my horses die, and all of my heroes die, and it makes me very, very sad.
No,
so in conclusion, this list is just heroes that just make me very sad.
Yeah, and I have someone on that list too who I just absolutely hate. It's not justified, but I just hate it. And that's Azog the Defiler. I do not know why, but I just hate playing against that model. I think it's due to my play style. I don't like engaging stuff. I'm kind of passive aggressive and like very like southern, like, oh, like I'm gonna like sly say some words.
Yes, Rainier, you are very passive aggressive. I'm glad you noticed that.
No, but in the sense you just can't stop Azog. And regardless of what soft stuff I throw at him, he just kills me. So
yeah, that train has no brakes.
It doesn't. Yeah, it does. I'm surprised no one said what's his face? The Dragon Emperor.
Yeah,
There's
actually,
been like debate.
I don't mind him.
There's been debate on like other podcasts, like Into the West, and other ones saying that he's overpowered. What do you guys think about that?
I have not fought against him yet to say, but I have not heard that that's the consensus, that he's overpowered.
I think that
you won an event recently with him, right, Matt?
Yeah, I did.
Did you find that he was too much, or was he a good like balance? Or
so I think the horde of the Horde of the Dragon Emperor lists, Legendary Legion is, I think, now one of the premier, super competitor, super predator lists.
And is that like a certain
it's not
range?
It's not because of the figure. It's, I think, because of the points bonuses that he gives. That 36 points of extra black dragons that he gives as part of the list.
So it's a Legion, not the. So the Dragon Emperor
Yeah.
still is not overpowered.
I mean, he's pretty powerful. And I think so. I think if he didn't give that 36 points of buffs in the Legion, I think he would effectively. I mean, he's undercosted, but he's undercosted in an army that is normally overcosted.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it all balances out. But when you put him in the Legion, that army is no longer overcosted. It's appropriately costed. And at that point, you've got an undercosted model in there for the buffs that he gives for 170 points, and the fact that he's a really good killing model. He's he does give advantages. I mean, they're not game breaking advantages, right? I mean, people can take him down, but you need to figure out a way to get into him and take him down. Because if you can't take him down, you can't beat that army. So
yeah, I agree with the assessment that I think he's undercosted, which is okay in a non-Legion Easterling army, but in that Legion, he's just undercosted for what he brings to the table if you compare him to other models that do similar things. But at the same time, I don't hate the model, or it doesn't, when I see it, I don't have an irrational reaction and break out into hives.
Yeah, he does not make me feel like Smaug or Balrog or anything that.
Yeah, or Gulavar, which.
I mean, even you end up playing a really fun game either with him or against him. That's the interesting part about it.
Well, I feel like there's counterplay to him, right? Some of these mentioned, there's just no counterplay, and it's either luck of the dice or, I agree, Evan, with Legolas, that I love playing Fellowship Boromir, but if I see Legolas, it's like, oh, okay. Because it's in the movie, you think Lurtz kills him, but literally, if you look a little bit past the screen, it's Legolas behind the trees shooting Boromir and smirking maniacally. So,
well, yeah, no, I can understand the unfun part about that, getting that horse sniped out every time. I mean, especially since you can't do anything about it. So,
it's interesting concept though, because I've seen it both ways too. Like I've seen Legolas make a game, but also just be a waste as well. Against heavy armor.
That's what I was saying. My Legolas. That's what he does. He always misses every shot. He is just atrocious. And that's the thing about that's sort of the commonality between a lot of the models we've picked, is either they roll well or they don't. And a lot of aspects of the game, if not the entirety of the game, is decided by how well that model rolls. And the lack of interactivity just makes it not a fun model to play against and sometimes even play with.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm seeing a common theme too, because we're all pretty competitive, and that is the aspect of someone rolling hot or someone rolling cold with one model tilts the game so much to where it kind of takes away from the really, really strategic kind of game mechanics that I feel like SPG has the best game mechanics ever. I was teaching some guys from my school yesterday, and they were like, wow, this is way better than Age of Sigmar and way better than fantasy, and I'm like, it is. And it was just, I didn't teach them any of the heroes, no monsters, just the dynamics.
I'm surprised you didn't put the heroes in. In my opinion, without might, this game is not fantastic.
Well, I was teaching them it from scratch, so I wanted to show them this is how it goes. Here's 10. You get 10 models, I get 10 models. Let me show you. But what basically going back to it is, yeah, I think the common theme for all of us is just we don't like it when something tilts it. I mean, go back to our scenario discussions. We don't like certain scenarios, to where it tilts it if it goes one way or the other. We kind of, I think, as competitive players, just like an even playing field, because that's when you see really just the skill of the player.
Well, I mean,
and then there's me who's like, man, the professor never wrote about this.
Well, actually, I kind of found that
people can say this.
I found that all 5 have had very
Orcs
different
can't cast
reasons.
magic.
No, I mean, but the jokes aside, like seriously, I actually think that we actually all 5 had pretty different reasons for, I mean, either through past pain of using the model or like our definition of what is fun when playing against it, or lore wise, or
and
Evan
our different reasons too overlap.
Well, I think Dad just needed therapy, honestly.
There's a
Like,
therapy session right here for you, Matt.
He's just
he
not over.
needs, like,
He's not over Miranda yet.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
It's,
Miranda the charioteer.
I'm sorry. It's too raw for me.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I agree with all of your choices. I think when it comes to something like Legolas, because that model's been around since literally the first book printed, I'm just used to the abuse, so it doesn't bother me in the way that some of the things do. But
and
yeah, I agree with all of
It's
those.
not like too much. It's just unfortunate that you're not going to be able to use your horse.
It's funny because we have like a standing joke up here about Bolg on Warg that he may as well just dismount, because if there's like one archer on the other army, Bolg's going to get dismounted. It's somehow it's like an ironclad rule. And I'm now thinking in my head of like, Evan's Bard is playing against Bolg on Warg, and Evan's Bard misses every shot, and Bolg's Warg dies anyway.
It's like the Patriot arrow and Men in Tights. It like reverses midair, right?
Yeah.
But are we comfortable calling what Bolg rides a warg, that wiener dog that he is mounted on?
I don't
know if that's the right terminology, but
I don't know why they made him like that. That was such a weird, bizarre choice. Like,
I mean, if Gothmog is riding an angry, oversized Chihuahua, surely Bolg is not on a warg.
Gothmog is definitely riding that CGI warg from Rings of Power. You need to do. Remember how Alisher had? Was it Alisher? I can't remember who had the spiders with the googly eyes.
Jesse had it like that.
Yeah, that's right. We need to put those googly eyes on that warg. That would be the warg from Rings of Power.
Oh, that was hilarious. That won the best painted too.
That warg definitely got into the orcs like cocaine stash or something, right? Like it's jittery, its eyes are bulging.
He was like, "Release the warg," and they're like, "The warg," and he's like, "Yeah."
Warg looks up, powder all over its face. Like,
honestly, though, I had a showing with all of our friends and stuff watching it, and we all just laughed as soon as the warg came out.
It really was. I mean, that warg's name is like Pugzilla.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
cool. That's how the episode
that's all of
ends.
it.
Yeah.
Strange ass.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to our in some cases therapy, in some cases rants. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'd love to hear from you in the comments if you have any models that you just hate for all the wrong reasons. There's nothing wrong with them, but you just have an irrational aversion to them. We'd love to hear about them. Keep posting those lists. We'll get to as many as we can. We always love reading them, and it's always difficult to decide which one to put up because you send so many good ones in. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Everyone.